Chapter 24. The horn of the night bus sounded loudly, calling the last passengers. I looked out the window at a small roadside market. The village on the distant hills was covered with mist. Tomorrow morning, I could see PALPASA. I wanted to tell her about the villages I had been to, the orange groups, the mustard fields, the rhododendron forest, the little girl who had been on the way to meet her Mitini, and the boy who had stopped going to school. I wanted to tell her about everything I had seen in the hills in these last few months. The driver honked the horn one last time. The conductor climbed in through the rear door next to me. The bus was packed with passengers. It was leaving for Kathmandu, where I could see Palpas again. I had so many stories to tell her. She could see the hills through my eyes. She could hear the villagers crying, the sound of suffering growing louder as the chirping of the birds faded away. She would cry when she heard my stories. She had understood for herself that the soul of the country was suffering. Then she could contemplate her own future and the challenges which lay ahead. She would have to choose her own path, of course, but I had to make her understand our country and our troubled time. She would embark on her own journey, but I could share the journey with her. I could give her my support. I could motivate her. I could capture the best of my experience and canvas, and she could grasp those images in her mind. I could give her my images and she could bring them to life. I could give my voice and she could provide a melody. I could give my colors and she would provide a rhythm. Together, my beloved and I would tell the world the stories of our country. The bus started with a jog. Though I was still far away from Palpasa, she was close in my thoughts. She understood my book and my paintings. She understood me. She had studied my paintings deeply, pages after pages, and the feelings I had conveyed in my book were now an integral part of her. She had taught me through my book. When I told her about my experiences in the past few months, she had understand me even better. I had to doubt she would be fascinated by the places I had been. She would travel to them through my art, following my brush strokes. She could see the restlessness of those places, the rivers and their crashing waves, and she could understand the source of this restlessness. Palpasa would see the tidal wave sweeping away village after village. Siddhartha was at peace. I was free from the bonds of that friendship. I had left it behind. Now Palpasa and I would start a journey together. When she understood everything about me, my past and my present experience for a journey together would begin. The woman sitting next to me nudged me. Namaste, she said. It was dark. I couldn't see her face properly, but her voice was familiar. Don't you recognize me? She asked. I don't, I said. Sorry. I looked at her more carefully. I sensed she was smiling. Palpasa? Oh my God, she said. How amazing to meet like this. After all these months, how are you? I have had an incredible journey, I said. I can't believe the things I have seen, but meeting you here like this is the most incredible thing that has happened so far. You just disappeared, she said sadly. I told myself all artists must behave that way. That helped me to forget about you. It was just too painful to remember. I couldn't help it, Palpasa. I tried to explain. A friend convinced me to go with him to the hill, and I'm returning with my hands soaked in his blood. Why? What happened? He was a friend from my college days. I hadn't seen him for years. He had come a mouse. He had become a mouse leader. He took me with him, but he was hunted down and slaughtered like an animal. How? He chose to risk his life, I said. The fact that he was killed doesn't really surprise me in itself, but the horrible part is the way he died. I was partly responsible for his death and I can't get over it. She studied me intently in the darkness. He left me early in our journey, I said. Eventually, I went looking for him. A girl was guiding me. Because of me, she fired her gun in the air, and that alerted the security forces. They captured us and took us to the place where my friend was waiting. Then I called out to him. I called him by name, and that helped them identify him. They shoot him, and he died in my arms. Pulpus sat in silence looking at me as the bus went round a bend. A truck passed from the opposite direction, and I saw her face for a fraction of a second in the light of its headlights. Betting on with your life is the important thing now, she said. You shouldn't allow the death of a person who lived by violence to devastate you. Remember, he had probably killed other people. But what about the sacrifice? How can you improve the lives of others by sacrificing your own life? But I feel responsible. How are you responsible? She asked. Your friend came and went like a breeze. The times didn't accept him, or he failed to understand the time. His death affected me so much I can't think of anything else, I said. He took me out of Kathmandu and I saw my country in ruins. But he must give you inspiration as an artist. I don't know, at least I came back alive, and thank God for that. But what about you? I asked. How come you are here? Remember, I once told you I wanted to make a documentary. Yes, I have been filming. What? It doesn't matter. It couldn't go where I wanted, she said. Where was that? The security personnel at the district headquarters advised me not to go to the PDS, but I didn't listen. I was on my way there from the district headquarters. I had only gone a little way when some people stopped me. And and then what happened? They interrogated me, asking my father's name, my grandfather's name. They searched my bags, shouting at me, asking why I had come there without their permission. Oh, after I had answered all the questions, they wrote down my name and description. They said they needed to ask their leader what to do with me. What to do with me. They kept me in a house in a village for 2 days. They didn't hurt me, but I was their prisoner. In the end, they told me I had to leave. I'm really furious. I can't believe the way they acted. That is strange, I said. They have made the villagers their prisoners. No one can go anywhere without their permission. It's simply a dictatorship. It shows how they would run the country if they ever come to power. And that could only be achieved at the barrel of a gun, not with the support of the people. In the dark of the bus, I stole a glance at her and she stole a glance at me. As though we were taking turns looking at each other. Her long, dazzling earrings suited her. She seemed both tense and relieved to see me. On the dark highway of Nepal, night buses generally move at very high speeds, as if they are competing in an Olympic race. These days, drivers are afraid that their vehicles might be ambushed or that there might be a strike somewhere blocking the road. Our boss was also speeding madly, and this kept me and Palpasa from having an in depth conversation. Each time the bus turned, we would fall against each other. It was like a dance. We tilted to the right, then to the left, and we rose off our seats together at every result. Though we tried to keep a respectful distance, the movement of the bus kept throwing us together. I wanted to hold her hand. How would she react? She started to talk again. I saw fear and tension in everyone's eyes. She said, when people feel like that, what can really be achieved? They are even afraid of a girl with a camera, such cowards. Cowards? She was livid. What else could you call people who are scared of a camera? You are right, they are cowards. I couldn't explain anything to them. She went on. They weren't even willing to listen to me. Were you on your own? I went with my camera. Where did you want to go? Wherever my camera took me. You haven't changed, I said. But you have, she said. I said, but I haven't forgotten you. You came like a flower in the spring, she said, and the next season you were gone. And in the next season, I came back, I said. After a while, the bus slowed down and stopped after several jolts. The conductor shouted, anyone want to pee? I got up. No one else, the conductor asked. A few more people got up. As I brushed past her legs, I said to Palpasa, I can't tell you how much I have missed you. I heard her say, and how could I have forgotten you? Grandma keeps talking about you all the time. All my problems are forgotten now that I have met you again, I said as I got off the bus. You have no idea how much I need you. Outside, a few passengers were receiving themselves behind bushes. I moved further away for more privacy. The driver honked the horn. Why was he suddenly so impatient? Then I realized it wasn't the bus which was sounding its horn, but a jeep approaching the bus. The bus driver started the engine and began to pull out to make room for the jeep. I hurried towards the bus, thinking it might go without me. As I did so, I heard an incredibly loud bang and found myself thrown to the ground. I tried to turn my head. All around, I heard people shrieking. I didn't know what was happening. Dazed, I ran my hands over myself to see if I had been hurt. I saw the road was lit up. Everything seemed to be on fire. I heard people groaning. A few people were running wildly, tripping over me. When I got up, the bus was on fire. Palpasa, I screamed. Through the place, I could hear the horrible shrinking of the passengers trapped inside the bus. I thought I could hear Paulpasa's voice above the rest, and the sound almost drove me insane. People were running away, but I stood there helplessly, unable to move, unable to think. Then I noticed a row of torches moving up the hill. Our boss had been caught in an ambush, led by the people carrying those torches. The jeep, whoever was safe. It was a police jeep. Several police officers got out and started firing in the direction of the lights moving up the hill, ordering us to stay where we are. Two passengers from the bus lay beside me unconscious. Palpasar, I screamed again towards the inferno, but no one in the bus could have survived. With a shudder, its metal frame collapsed like a dead tree struck by lightning. It was still burning. In no time, all that was left was a charred skeleton. No one inside was screaming anymore. The few survivors were standing like ghosts on the highway. My whole body was shaking like a leaf. All my dreams and desires were suddenly gone, as if there had been a bird flying off the branch of a tree. I had survived only because I had got off the bus, and Palpasa had been killed only because she hadn't. It was offshore the reason I had survived and the reason she had been killed. There was no reason behind it. It's not that I had survived because of some act of courage and she had died because of some weakness. None of it made sense. It was a crime. It was cowardly. All logic and all common sense were gone. Why was I alive and Palpasa dead? I heard one policeman say to another, it was us they were trying to ambush. We survived by a matter of seconds. If the boss's headlights hadn't come on, we would have been dead. The other said, our driver must have seen something. He swerved just in time, otherwise it should have been us. I had looked at Palpasa for the last time ever as I got off the bus. I was just the briefest of glance. I had hardly seen her. Now I realized it would be the last time I had ever see her. I would ever see her. I thought about her lovely eyes, her soft skin. I wiped my eyes. Why had I gotten on the same bus as Palpasa? Why had she gotten on the same bus as me? A journey that brought her life to an end. Why? Why? These questions came into my mind again and again. I felt as if I were going mad. Journalists arrived in the morning like a swarm of hornets. Their lenses were everywhere. A cool breeze was blowing over the stream by the road, but I felt hot and feverish. I was still shaking like a leaf as the sun came up. I wished I could wake up from this nightmare. A group of journalists surrounded me. How did you survive? One asked. Weakly, I said, I got off the bus to pee. What did you see? I saw the bus on fire. How did the explosion happen? How did the police chief escape? They flooded me with questions. Were you traveling alone? A journalist asked from the back of the crowd. The question rattled me. Should I answer them? Why should I? Was there any reason to tell him who had been sitting beside me and what she had meant to me? Was there any sense in making that public? I said nothing. The camera lens zoomed in on me as I wiped away my tears. How did they detonate it? Another reporter asked. How could I answer that? All I had seen were torches moving up the hill. There had been an exchange of fire between them and the police, then silence. Were any relatives of yours in the bus? I said nothing. Were you able to rescue anyone from the bus? A journalist shot at me. Don't you have anything to say about the incident? Another asked. I was silent. The person who had brought happiness to my life was gone. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. PALPASA had become the sweetest picture in my life. I had fallen in love with her dreams. I had felt we had traveled together to a wonderful destination. Now she was gone. She had disappeared in flames before my eyes. The poor girl. She had struggled so hard against her family and tradition to live her own life. Now time had taken her in those cruel frames. I stood there where the terrible thing had happened, feeling that time was testing me. I sat down. I stood up. I stood a while, then sat down again. Oh God, how could I just have witnessed the death of my love?